mukoze emirimu olunaku olwaleero tubeebaza ebyo byonna bye mutaddeko amaanyi gammwe. Twebaza Katonda abakuumye ate nga mukyali balamu, and n'abo bonna abalina ebitagenda bulungi Mukama ayongere okubagumya ate tuwongere okubira nammwe. Olunaku olwaleero twagala kwogera ku nsonga still yabyanjigiriza ejjo twadde wano nga tukuba endowooza ku nsonga z'abaana ba senior sex. Abaana bamala okusoma senior sex bagenda mu tertiary institutions. Olunaku olwaleero tugenda kunoonya omugaso gwa tertiary institutions zino oba higher education platforms. Twagala kutunuulira job market y'eggwanga, then tutunule job market y'ensi, tusindika abaana baffe okugenda okukola mostly mu Buwarabu, and abasinga bakola bintu bya hands, that is maids, bavuga the drivers bavuga motoka, but tulabye abo bakola technical work abali mu construction but still they are not doing so well. Twagala kutunuulira nti abaana baffe bagenda mu universities, are they being prepared for the world that is out there that is waiting for them. Naku olwaleero ndi ne musomesa ku ttendekero lya business school MUBS, Mr. Robinson Ogwang. Tugenda kuteesa ku nsonga z'abaana n'engeri ebintu gye bitambulamu. Yes, Robinson, I'm happy to have you today.
I appreciate it. It's my pleasure being here once again.
We want to appreciate you for educating the nation through the platforms you have at different tertiary institutions. Today we want to dive into the conversation of where our children are heading. When we are talking about students and talking about children and preparation for a job market, we have statistics of over 80,000 students who are now getting into campus.
Yeah.
And we have many now institutions of higher education, universities and tertiary institutions, vocational institutions. Do you still believe of the issue of the two principal passes still makes sense for you to qualify for campus, or there needs to be a more changed approach of how students go to the higher education level?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Calvin, first of all, for again inviting me to be here. I'm very passionate about education. I think one of the ways we are going to transform our society is through educating as many as we can. And I also want to use this opportunity to congratulate everyone that has made it through USC, and looking forward to joining the university. We started off on a very serious note about the two principal passes. Yes, it's been a yardstick that for long we have used to determine whether someone qualifies to join the university or any other tertiary institution or not. And to me, I believe, yes, it is quite important, but then it has also given us people that to some extent not sure of what exactly they're supposed to be doing. When you see the kind of pressure that is put on these young people when they're preparing for their final exams, I mean, to some extent it looks like it is the end of the world if they go in to sit for that paper. And at every stage, from PLE coming to UCE, then going to USCE, I have had candidates who are joining the university, those that join from 5 and 1, that join P7, and you look at them when they're preparing for the final exams and you wonder what kind of pressure this is. So to some extent, these final exams that now promote someone to the next level has been seen as an end. Yes, to a certain stage, but then the pressure that it comes with, given the fact that we normally joke about this with my colleagues, that when you're in primary, you're not yet sure, but you're excited that the future can actually make you become a doctor, a pilot. I remember I wanted to be a doctor. P7 exams came in and I was a little confused. You don't know what exactly. After the results come back, you're not sure what exactly you need to do, but O-level there, you're trying to discover yourself. A-level, now you get to be a little more determined whether you should go and do sciences, but still, you don't go to do sciences because you think you actually like it, or this is something you believe you can do. You go to do sciences because you've passed it. Now, if you have a very, very sharp student who has passed both arts and sciences, they go into A-level and they're confused, they're torn apart. But then in most cases at that level, we are relying so much on our parents. So the parent will tell you, according to how you've been performing, you can go and do sciences. Reach A-level, you're not yet sure of what exactly you want to do. Reach A-level and then you finish your exams and the world shows you a completely different direction. You come to the university, still, you know, you're still relying on your parents because what determines what you're going to do at the university is not what you like, but how you've passed what you've been studying.
Yes.
So it is part of the problem why we are having a very big number of people that are unemployed. And if we continue basing on the two principal passes, we are setting ourselves up for a much bigger problem. That we already have a problem now.
Yeah. Okay. Now, my next question was coming from there, but before I get the question, there is a discussion I was having with one of the educationists in the country, and they were telling me there must be a distinction between passion and the job market. And we find parents right now pushing people, or young children are pushing the idea of, I want to be a lawyer, rather than looking at what the job market actually needs and them tapping into the untapped areas of the education sector or the prevailing economy we have. Do you actually, do you believe that parents and children, or even the young generation, should shift from having passion and go into looking at the job market as they are choosing the things they want to invest in their education?
You see, Calvin, every year tertiary institutions graduate about 700,000.
Yes.
And out of the 700,000, we have about 90%, approximately 90% being absorbed into the informal sector. It is only after university that you discover that what you've studied is not actually what you like to do. So you find that approximately 90% going to do what they feel like they should do, or what they love to do. So passion still drives so much. However much we talk about what the job market wants, we've seen people that are studying things that, you know, are relevant today, but when they get in, they fail to perform. Until someone is picked and put where they feel they can actually perform better, and that's when you start seeing their true colors coming out.
So passion is still a determining factor in how you're choosing a career path.
A very big determining factor on how you choose your career path. However, the pressure coming from the job market itself, it's how best can we balance the passion that we have to make us go outside there and do things. Because I believe if you go out and do something that you personally don't feel like you can do, it's just a matter of time. You're going to get out of it.
Okay. Now, when we have the discussion of tertiary institutions and the teaching modules, we cannot hide away from the fact that the National Council for Higher Education has given go-aheads, forgetting the technical word for it, accrediting universities.
Yeah.
It has actually accredited universities to teach certain courses, and universities are going ahead to teach certain courses. We have seen challenges that some of the universities don't even have the number of doctorates they need, like doctors and professors in different schools or in different departments that can actually equip students to be who they are. Do you actually, what is your say about the number of the increased tertiary institutions vis-a-vis the products they produce?
Over the years, we've seen a really huge increase in the number of tertiary institutions, most especially coming from the private sector. But this has also raised a very big question in the quality of the graduates that we take out into the world. And to me, I see this as a government issue because, I mean, our education sector only receives approximately, I think, if I'm to be right, it's about 2.6%
of the budget.
Of the budget every time. And so when you ask about the number of PhD holders in the university, all those come out of money that government should spend in these institutions. But then again, we have a very big number of young people joining the universities that only public institutions cannot absorb them. And so it gives way to these private sector investors to come in, and these private universities coming in to come and take on the rest of the people that cannot join these public institutions. We've also seen some public institutions transition from offering the undergraduate degree, like Makerere is now transitioning into only having postgraduate and focusing on research, to give chance to all these other universities to absorb the undergraduate. Well, there is a serious mismatch in the kind of students that, I mean the graduates that are coming out of these universities. But these can be zeroed down to a number of issues that our education has been majorly theoretical. Government through the National Council for Higher Education has pushed public universities and all these other private universities to move into what we know as a competence-based education. That now things are moving to be a little practical to bridge that gap, to fill that gap that we've been having, a mismatch in the kind of graduates that come out of the universities with what is available in the market. So the people joining higher institutions today from senior 6 are moving on from a system that is already competence-based to a university that is now adopting the competence-based learning. And we are yet to see how much this is really going to change the story. But I completely believe that, yes, in the past, the universities have been producing people that, one, you're very knowledgeable about almost everything, but when it goes to the practical bit of it, you simply cannot do anything. I have had the privilege of being in interview rooms, and you're asking someone basic things. How do you relate with one another while at work? Because the biggest part of the work you do in organizations is relations. You want to get something done, it's a matter of how best you can convince someone to get this done. How do you present yourself? And there is a problem.
I saw Professor Nawangwe having a press conference and was requesting government to invest more in research when it comes to the education sector, especially universities. And I have seen universities like Kampala International University, it has done more funding of the research institution, the research department, to see that they actually are fitting into what the world is pushing and what the world needs. When you're looking at the higher institutions of learning, where is the challenge? Why are we not having universities investing in departments that can actually create something in the education sector?
Research is, universities run and live on research. It is only research that will inform you about what is coming in the future and making sure that you don't commit the same mistakes that people made in the past. And research is driven by resources. You don't have the resources, you won't do the research. You don't do research, you're stagnant.
Yes.
So the world is going to move past you. Public institutions, for example, MOOBS has really invested so much time and resources in doing research. As I said, they cannot survive without it.
Yes.
Well, you ask a question that, what are they not doing right, if I got you right? It's simply, this is a question of resources. Professor Nawangwe says government needs to increase funding in research. It's exactly that. Just give in more money and you'll see a number of research being done, having the increase in the number of PhD holders, and we shall collectively start producing new knowledge for our people to come in. Even the competence-based that we are now moving into, it's a product of research. Knowing that the future requires us to start teaching our children and our university students in a certain way. We need to come out and start doing this. And how do we do that? Start from the foundation. As they join senior one, they're already learning these things that are practical. Come to A-level, it's practical. Come to the university, you go outside there and you're doing real stuff.
Okay. When we talk about the issue of funding, and especially when we get into research, we have seen independent partners or organizations that have invested in research, especially in public institutions, and there has been a lot of mismanagement of those funds. Do you think we are partially a reason why some of these investments are no longer coming in as they used to, especially from Makerere University?
True mismanagement is there. One of our biggest challenges as a country is corruption and mismanagement of some of these funds. They give you money to do something and you're diverting it to do the other. Yes, I would want to blame ourselves. But then again, as I blame those that receive the money, we should also be looking at why are they doing this? Because, I mean, if you give me money and I'm poor, what do you expect me to do? University lecturers have been crying for increment in salaries, payments, wages, and all that. And I mean, government, yes, has tried to make some strides in that direction, but I believe more still needs to be done. It's only when I'm satisfied that I don't get to encroach into someone's space. So the money that is given for research will not be touched, it will not be mismanaged, because, I mean, people have enough. They're putting in the energy and they are being facilitated to do that.
We have an education sector that has now the private players being more than the government institution investing in it. And we have the challenges that are in the education sector that is funded by the public funds, is the same challenge you're hearing in the private sector. Do you believe that, or in your view, how are we going to have an education sector that is harmonized, yet we face the same challenges across the board? If they're not paying as best as possible the professors that are in public universities, and the same is happening with the professors at the private universities, how are we going to have an education that is actually moving forward when we still have the same challenges across board?
This is a challenge of prioritizing some of these sectors by, actually I do not want to call it a challenge, but it's something that government should come out to come and, you know, make it uniform for everyone. Today everyone fights to join a government institution because of the pay, of which a private institution cannot match the amount of money that government is paying its lecturers. But then we have a very big number of students that are in the private institutions. So, you know, it's a very complicated situation, because now this is someone's business and you're not going to tell him to pay lecturers the same amount of money that government is giving them. At the end of the day, he's looking for a profit, and government decides just wants to provide a public good to everyone else. So, to some extent, today I was in some platform and I was seeing they're talking of increasing the salaries of secondary teachers, and someone simply said, if you're a lecturer, it would be better for you to go back. If you're a teaching assistant, it would be better for you to apply to become a secondary teacher than remain in the university.
Wow.
So I think government needs to see that now, even when the teachers are giving the knowledge, there's still need for them to have enough money. That's why they will be running up and down here and there to go and get something extra, to get in the money coming, and they don't give 100% of their time to the students. So the issue of government investing in the money and the private sector, how do we come into match? I believe the reason behind these two are completely different.
Okay, we're having a sector that is nearly failing because of the challenges that are cross-border. Why I call it failing is that the private sector, where we would expect that it's a business-oriented sector and the business, you need to show products that come from it. We are having challenges of not investing enough in the product, because you are having products from private universities, some of them, not all of them. We have had very nice products from private universities like and we are doing well. But do you believe that we have reached a moment where government should actually prioritize taking back a sector like education and investing more in it, rather than leaving it entirely to the private sector now?
Government does not have money to run all these institutions. If it's to take it away from the private sector. In some of these sectors, you need the private sector to come in to supplement on the government's initiatives. Government has a lot of things it's doing. To maintain the quality, yes. I think this is a regulatory issue.
Yes.
National Council of Higher Education should just be more determined in trying to ensure that the quality of the students coming out, both from the government and the private sector, is really checked and up to standard.
Because that's where actually I was going to head. If you're not investing in the financial part of it all, invest in the regulatory part of it all. Like, invest to make sure that the people who are overseeing universities are putting a grip on it to make sure that the products are okay. So do you think government lacks just the moral or the technical support to make sure that there is a grip on private universities?
No, government has all the resources it's been trying to put in to ensure that the regulation of this tertiary institution is up to standard. I think, to me, the bigger challenge is the people that are charged with the responsibility of regulating and monitoring these universities. Still, it gets back to Calvin. If they gave you a job to do something like that, you do it because, I mean, you're driving an entire generation whose future is in your hands. But I believe there is some reluctance and, people just not paying attention to what exactly they're supposed to do. But government actually has all these things in place.
And because I want to look at the will of government doing this. Does it actually have the will? Because we have seen it do regulatory on other things. When it comes to taxes, government has made sure URA has a grip over taxes.
Because that's the source of everything.
So isn't education important enough to government so that it can take a grip on it?
It is absolutely important. And I'm saying, as government tries so hard to ensure that education is also regulated through these institutions, the National Council for Higher Education, and also the Ministry of Education, we should have the will ourselves. The people that are in these entities should have the will to do the right thing. I give you an example. There is someone who told me one day he's been following up to just approve the program, and it's taken I think about 5 years for it to be approved, because someone simply believes, I mean, I had a personal issue with you at a certain point, and now you cannot give me what I want, or you cannot give my institution what it wants because I had a personal issue. Now it moves away from government, it comes to people. How are they? Do they have the will to drive government programs into existence? Do they have the right mindset to deliver this at the end of the day? So
some of the issues you're raising, these are public officers. That means they must serve to the will of the people. If I am having a program and I believe I've crafted it well and presented documentation, and I believe it can be impactful to the academic sector, if I'm having challenges with the person as a personality, don't you think we have reached at a level where we need to have more of some of these people pulled out from public service and we put people who can work?
It's not quite easy as it sounds. It's not that easy, but it's something I wouldn't really want to get into.
Okay. Now, when we look at the job market, the president of the country has been investing more in science, has been investing more in invention and innovation. And as a country, we have seen, even in the recent results, we have seen more arts being done. And when you look at the 700,000 graduates you have per year, per university, the challenge is, where do we put them? Now, I want us to look at the prevailing economy and the available jobs we have in the market. We need to go to the technology part. Government is saying we want more into the business of technology, and we have almost around 4,000 companies or industries. Government is advocating for something that is well and good, but to sustain it, that's why we have the challenges. So I'm trying to have a discussion around the job market. Do you believe institutions are producing for the job market, or the job market is actually non-existent and we shouldn't be looking at it per now?
The job market is existing, but I told you we graduate about 700,000. More than 60% of these are majorly in humanities, social sciences, business administration, and the rest of the percentage is given to the sciences. People that are studying practical things. Out of the 700,000, the formal sector only gives jobs to about 200,000, about 190,000 to 200,000 of them. And the rest of them are just out here probably engaging in their own things. I told you about 90% of those who got into the private sector. We are producing too much, but the job market is absorbing.
That is where my point was. The job market, is it existent or it is non-existent? Because we are looking at...
It is existent, but the challenge is the people we have been producing in the past, there's been that skill mismatch. You produce a graduate of this and that, and at the end of the day, when you take them out to go and do the work, they lack that practical skill. And the employer out there is actually looking for someone who can get the job done. But today in organizations, you employ someone and you spend about 2 months, 3 training them the actual thing.
The graduate training programs.
Yeah. And if you're not doing that, then you're going to be getting substandard people, and you're going to invest in a lot of money in trying to make sure they come up to speed.
You are saying tertiary institutions are producing people and they lack the skill. So does that mean that now we need to resit and rearrange ourselves when it comes to what we're teaching in universities?
And that is exactly what the universities are doing at the moment.
Isn't it too late?
No. It's not really too late. We already identified the problem, and now we are trying to solve the problem, and it's actually going to solve the problem. So we are not yet late. The only challenge is the people that haven't benefited from what is already coming up should now be willing to take on these other, short courses to learn these other skills. Today you can't survive in the world out there unless you have a digital skill. There are many institutions that are offering these things. A very big number of the 90% that goes into the informal sector is surviving on the gig economy. Something comes up 1 week, 3 weeks, and you're running up and down to go and get that money. But for you to even survive in that, you need to have the digital skills. You need to learn how to relate with one another. So those that will not benefit from the competence-based that is now coming up will have to go back and get some of these skills in their hands.
I was looking at the unemployment rate running from 15 to actually 80%, 88% in certain sectors. Now you have a sector like oil and gas. In the country, we are still developing our oil sector, and we're still moving on, but we have students who are offering oil and gas at universities and even doing masters in them. Yet the availability of the companies to take them in here in the country is lacking. So my question now is, how are we going to streamline our institutions and our children we are teaching to match the little that is available and maximize on it?
When you talk of oil and gas is a dream that we've been dreaming about, and now we are coming to live it. At the very beginning, these jobs might actually look like they are not available, but you give it about 10 years. We shall have these people ready to be absorbed by companies coming up. The discovery of our oil here will actually open our economy to so much. And so that's just a matter of time.
Okay. Then we talk about because now we want to look at government.
Yeah.
Has government actually prepared enough? Because there is an environment, there is a creation and thinking that we have a very, I want to call it fertile economy that is still growing and it is still very productive, and people should actually go beyond what they've studied in school. Has government put in place enough policies, enough mediums for people to actually tap into the untapped sectors of the economy so that they can raise money?
I think yes, government has done that. Government has been promoting science education, and for you to develop as a country, as an economy, you must invest heavily on science. Government has also put in place, I think, several measures, and you know, they have been favoring people that are coming to do sciences. Today, if you did sciences and you want to join the army, it's quite easy for you. So I believe there are those opportunities. Government is really preparing. It's preparing us for the world coming ahead.
When we look, we had a discussion here about MDs, the SMEs. Those are the small, medium, and those enterprises. And we were looking at the tax economy they work in and the policy economy they work in. When we're looking at the streamlination of those SMEs, and when we look at what they need to be set up, when you look at some of the investment modules government wants to do is the fintech, the startups. Do you actually believe, now we have seen countries like Germany, we've seen countries like Sweden that have invested in startups. When you have a startup, especially when it is in technology and pharmaceutical, government will go ahead to give you incentives and actually go ahead to give you funding. Do you believe that that is what we actually need here, or government has not even thought about that angle?
To some extent, yes, government has done that. I believe with the funds that government has been putting out, the youth livelihood programs and all that, it's only that some of these programs come to please a certain group of people politically, not really directed into what can actually build a society, build an economy. But yes, that is where we need to be taking ourselves. That's the direction we need to be taking right now, funding some of these startups. However, to some extent, I also believe we are starting from somewhere and not creating a foundation for these startups to survive.
Which foundation do we need to create for startups in the first place?
Train people, educate them on how to manage some of these things. Secondly, most of these countries that have developed have heavily invested in entrepreneurship education. Calvin, today, you can have an amazing discovery. Okay, you start up something that is really, really going to change stories. I know someone who invented a machine that could test malaria, I think without, pricking you or drawing blood out of you. But today the gentleman's things are selling somewhere in West Africa and not in Uganda, but it was developed from here. So we have these brilliant minds that are discovering new things here, but we have not trained them enough to scale their discovery or their innovation to commercialize it and start making money. So most of the startups actually end at that level where, I think they end at the incubation stage, where they take you in, and then a lot of time needs to be given to develop the product that you're coming up with, for it to be ready to go out into the market, and people get lost in the middle.
I think that's where actually my question was, the question of funding, because we have ministries like of science and technology that has been a ministry that has it used to be under Ministry of, I think, used to be under Ministry of Education. Now it is a full ministry headed by Dr. Msenero. And these are some of the ministries that need to be focal, especially when it comes to startups. But we have not seen them get involved in the innovators we have as a country. So where are we actually seeing the impact of these ministries, if not in the startups like you're talking about?
For government to come and invest in a startup, it must qualify. I believe government has those, standards that they look at for them to come and invest in. Government is really investing in a number of them, I believe. But to some extent, as I say, you can have the innovation, but unless you've been trained on how to scale up that, at what level, then we shall start asking questions. At what level should the government come in? Come in to look for market for you, to provide you with the market, or give you money to develop the product from scratch, or you come up and show us something tangible that you've developed, and then look for funding to take this up to the next level. In most cases, people are looking for money to start thinking, which is not the right thing. Because now, if you come to me and present for me something in paper, and you haven't yet gone an extent to really discover or show me how your invention is going to solve a problem, it will be hard for me to come in and invest.
So we need to see more of the practicability before we ask for funding from government.
Before we start asking for funding, first produce something and let us see. Because that is where the money is getting lost in. We give you the money, then you disappear. Or give you the money, you haven't really studied what exactly you want to invent. And then all of a sudden, you also personally, as the innovator, you get lost in it. And the money is gone.
Okay. Yeah. The prevailing circumstances in the country, the prevailing economy, the prevailing availability of resources, do you think it supports innovation and innovation in the country, Uganda, as we are now?
I would say yes. People have the freedom, you have the technology, you have the access to some of these entities that are supposed to be providing support to you. It just gets back to how serious you really, how bad my mentor calls it, how hungry are you to put something up? Because I've seen people that have really developed serious things are coming out, and you see how passionate they are, and then they are getting support. So
when it comes to the invention and the innovation sector, we look more at technology, we look more at pharmaceuticals, medicine, and now that's where we have the issues of research and funding. When we look at our education part of it all, Makerere used to have very good research programs, and most of the research assistants who have passed through Makerere research program are doing well. Is the research and the documentation available enough to push such inventions and innovations so that they can come to life?
Yes, they do have it. The only challenge is we are not making the best use of it. Every time someone wants to just come up with something new, it's for us in academia, we say knowledge is not something stagnant that you get today and keep it. We have a lot of research papers out there that's talking about a number of things. And someone developing something today just needs to just go outside there and look for who exactly studied something like this, and then they pick up from there and start taking it to another level. I have a friend who tells me that he has a lot of research papers. He has been even given money by some businesses around to go and do research, to come and help improve their services here and there. But at the end of the day, the CEOs put them in the drawers and they're just there. So we never get to use our research findings to solve problems and change how.
Are we just downplaying what has made other economies grow, and we are not taking it into consideration?
Yes, we do not. Actually, I would say simply that little attention is given to what comes out of research from universities. And if businesses or even government would just pay attention to what university dons are saying out of research, it is not just out of their mind. They have gone to the field and studied some of these principles, and they come out and tell you, if we take this direction, we can actually solve this problem. I think we're just not doing that.
was having a discussion today with a member of parliament, and he was telling me, you look at certain ministries, they have permanent secretaries and they are not qualified to be in those specific ministries.
Yeah.
And he was advocating that certain ministries should have technical people heading them. When we have a political class that most of the ministries where we're supposed to have technocrats heading these ministries, and yet we have political leaders, does that kill also the motive of planning for those certain ministries?
Yeah, it does. I think this is quite challenging for me to talk about, but unfortunately appointments come out of patronage. This is someone that I know, and I've been with them somewhere, and people are taking up these leadership positions simply because they know someone, not because they actually have the actual skills to run them. And that is where we have serious problems. I mean, in developing worlds, developed economies have invested so much in identifying the right people for the job, and they give them the right jobs, and they get outside there and perform. And besides that, some of these people are in the wrong positions. Not only that, they do not even have the powers to make changes. Yeah.
He was giving me an example of Ministry of Health being the only place that actually has doctors, medical doctors. But when you look at other ministries, they are lacking the technical people, and yet these are the technical people that are supposed to be pushing some of these ideas to move. So moving forward, because we want now to look at the issue of what government should do, because now we have identified the challenges, we have talked here and there, the economy, we have talked about the universities, we have talked about the political heads, we have talked about the MDAs. Now, what should government do to address the issue of the output of the students, number one, and then also creating spaces within the job market that the students that are coming should tap into to make sure that we reduce these numbers of employment and lack of what to do?
One, I said government is already making strides with the competence-based initiatives, and that is going to really solve the bigger problem that we are now going to have people coming out of the universities with the skills they actually need to go outside there and change the world. And government needs to do more funding to these institutions, because you're now taking the students from theoretical education to something practical. And when you take them to the practical bit of it, the lecturers themselves need to be funded, because we also need to be thinking now practical. And I think it's in my institution that the leadership now tells us that you cannot teach people practical things if at all you yourself are not in practice. Go outside there and understand. Go outside there and participate. Go do consultancies. So government should allow some of these people go outside there and get to also be absorbed into the market, so that when they're coming out to teach something practical, they are talking from experience, not from the textbooks they have read. I've said government should increase funding, yes, and funding should be in research, and also some good pay to these people that are supposed to be nurturing the young generation coming up to go outside there and change the world. Then, about the space, I think through the ministries, government has a lot of programs that government just needs to just promote these programs and create more awareness about some of them. Calvin, I will tell you, it is only when you get close to someone who works in a ministry that you will understand how opportunities are there and people just don't know. I have seen opportunities come up from several ministries here that I won't mention. We just simply didn't know about them. So government needs to also talk about some of these things a little more. You've talked of having technocrats in these ministries. They are not available, but they are. We have technocrats in these ministries, and the only problem is they do not have the powers to take action. they provide, papers and direction, but all this is swept aside because there is a political will that needs to be achieved.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, what really matters, what can change people's lives, is left behind. But the technocrats are there. We just need to empower them, give them the right tools, and give them the opportunity to go outside there and do the needful.
Okay, thank you very much. Abadde batula ku DreamTV, ku Doxa TV ne ku Impact FM abadde batuuliza tubadde mu discussion engeri abaana baffe abava mu masomero n'engeri emirimu gyabwe, how the job market is treating them. Twebaza okutambula naffe olunaku lwaleero tusisinkanira lunaku olwokuna. Musule bulungi, mweraba.